Malaysia's economy grew by 14.2% year-on-year in the third quarter of this year, driven mainly by the continued expansion of domestic demand. Bank Negara Malaysia, or BNM, said today that the acceleration in gross domestic product growth was also supported by a firm recovery in the labour market and incomes and ongoing policy support. Meanwhile, exports remained buoyed by strong demand for electric and electronics products, and the recovery of inbound tourism lent further support to economic activity. Headline inflation is likely to have peaked for the year at 4.5% during the third quarter, while core inflation rose to 3.7% from 2.5% in the second quarter of this year. The last time GDP growth exceeded 10% was in the second quarter of 2021, when the domestic economy expanded by 16.1%. Overall, the economy grew by 9.3% in the first 9 months of 2022 alone, and Central Bank Governor Nur Syamsiah Muhammad Yunus said full-year growth should exceed the 7% projected earlier. Moving forward, she said although domestic financial markets may face the risk of higher volatility, spillovers to domestic financial intermediation should remain contained. She affirmed Putrajaya's 2023 growth forecast of 4 to 5% and said the central bank is confident that Malaysia will not be experiencing a recession in the coming year. Carlsberg Malaysia saw its third quarter FY22 net profit surge almost threefold to 76.39 million ringgit from a year earlier. The increase was on the back of higher contributions from both Malaysian and Singaporean operations amid the easing of COVID-19 linked restrictions, although they were partly offset by the one-off prosperity tax. Quarterly revenue rose 63.65% to 571.63 million ringgit. The group declared a third interim dividend of 19 sen. Looking ahead, Carlsberg Malaysia will continue its approach of assessing dividends after taking into consideration the group's performance, its capital expenditure and business needs, as well as the overall business environment. Its managing director, Stefano Clini, said in a statement that he expects the outlook to remain challenging given the global inflationary pressures, supply chain disruptions and further cost pressures on the beverage group. In addition, it is facing the impact from the one-off prosperity tax, which will continue to affect earnings for the final quarter of the year. He said the group will remain committed to implementing the final year of its SAIL22 priorities, staying disciplined in cost optimization initiatives to deliver efficiencies while continuing to reinvest in its brands to fuel growth. Carlsberg Malaysia's shares finished 1.3% higher at 23 ringgit 40 sen, bringing it a market capitalization of 7.15 billion ringgit. Bursa Malaysia has publicly reprimanded TA Securities Holdings as the sponsor and principal advisor for Catcha Digital Media for breaching ACE market listing requirements. Catcha Digital Media was formerly known as Rev Asia. In a statement, the stock exchange operator said Rev, which was previously a cash company, proposed a regularization plan that would involve the acquisition of the entire equity interest in iMedia, which would cause a significant change in its business direction and policy. Pursuant to the listing requirements, TA Securities, as the sponsor, must ascertain the adequacy of both the internal controls and risk management systems of Rev and iMedia Group in assessing that the enlarged Catcha Group was suitable for listing. However, it failed to do any such review or assessment. In addition, it had repeatedly provided inaccurate and misleading statements and confirmations to Bursa Malaysia Securities in relation to the matter. The regulator said TA Securities' conduct was unacceptable and that it viewed the violations seriously. It also reminded sponsors and advisors of listed corporations to maintain the highest standards of integrity, accountability and responsibilities to ensure compliance of the listing rules. Analysts have raised their target prices for Berjaya Food after its first quarter FY 2023 net profit almost tripled to 34.7 million ringgit. HLIB research analyst Shifa Mahsuri Ismail kept her buy call on the stock and raised her target price by 19.1% to RM1.31 as the firm rolled forward its valuation year to FY 2023 from FY 2022, pegged to an unchanged price to earnings or PE multiple of 16 times. She said the research house is still positive on Starbucks, while a leaner concept Kenny Rogers Roasters store chain would enable the group to continue maintaining its profitability. HLIB revised its earnings forecasts upwards by 2% for FY 2023 and by 3% for FY 2024, following an update from the company. Meanwhile, CGS-CIMB's Khoo Chen Ye raised the research house's target price for Berjaya Food by 3.6% to RM1.02, based on 16.2 times 2023's PE, which represents a 10% discount to its historical 5-year mean PE of 18 times. He said the firm remains cautious about Berjaya Food's sales momentum in the coming quarters, as it believes that the group's transaction size could fall after the passing of the pent-up demand period, with demand possibly dampened by softer consumer discretionary spending power amid a higher inflationary environment and interest rate hike cycle. CGS-CIMB raised its earnings per share forecasts for Berjaya Food for FY 2023 to 25 by 15.6% to 24.7% to reflect higher revenue and operating margin assumptions. Berjaya Food's share price rose 0.51% to 99 cent at the close, giving it a market capitalization of RM1.93 billion. Pharma Niaga says it is working to ensure sufficient supply of the Sinovac COVID-19 vaccine for children and additional boosters for adults, as the country witnesses a rise in the number of new COVID-19 cases in the past week. In a statement today, Pharma Niaga Group Managing Director Datuk Zulkarnain Muhammad Yusof noted the increasing concern and encouraged the public to take preventive measures by taking additional booster doses for adults aged 18 and above and adolescents aged 5 to 17 years. He said that as of October, only 49% of Malaysians had received their COVID-19 vaccine booster dose. Pharma Niaga is collaborating with healthcare service provider MeCare to supply the Sinovac COVID-19 vaccine to the public at 50 selected private hospitals and clinics across Malaysia. He highlighted that a recent study published in August by the Institute for Medical Research Malaysia showed that though 3 doses of the mRNA vaccine provide better protection, a booster dose of the Sinovac COVID-19 vaccine provides similar protection against symptomatic COVID-19 disease, compared to a booster dose of the mRNA vaccine in subjects who had received primary vaccination with the Sinovac vaccine. At the close, Pharma Niaga had risen 1.9% to 54 cent for a market capitalization of RM707.38 million.